Click Next to continue. Hello, and welcome to the VMware vRealize Operations Manager Fundamentals course. This course demonstrates how VMware vRealize Operations Manager delivers intelligent operations management from applications to infrastructure across physical, virtual, and cloud environments. Here are the topics that we will cover. Here are the things you should be able to do after you complete this course. Let us start by discussing the challenges IT operations faces in the cloud era and how VMware addresses those challenges. After you complete this module, you should be able to do the things shown here. As technology plays an increasingly central role in everyday business operations, IT teams in every industry are under pressure to centralize and optimize operations so that they can do more with less. Everything has traditionally been managed in silos. Although centralized management offers obvious advantages in efficiency and cost, IT team members often find themselves with limited visibility into far-flung systems. IT professionals believe that the reality in today's operations is that without a specific alerting system or unified visibility, they are frequently hit by alert storms. They have a monitoring data overload. Alert storms and data overload can lead to production system downtime, resulting in lost revenue and customer dissatisfaction. This leads to finger-pointing between teams. Is it the VI administrator's fault? Is it a storage issue? Is it the database administrator's problem? Finger-pointing then leads to over-provisioning by as much as 30% or more, which basically negates the value that virtualization is providing for them. There are also the business challenges. Within most organizations, infrastructure costs have been steadily dropping over time. There is a disconnect between line of business and IT. Line of business expects costs to drop due to CapEx and OpEx savings brought on by virtualization. VMware's operations management solution, VMware vRealize Operations, is structured around an analytics and automation platform. This analytics platform pulls in performance and availability data, capacity data, configuration, topology, as well as logs and unstructured data. It then correlates and aggregates this data to provide our users with deep insights into operations management and performance, and helps them automate operations management. VMware vRealize Operations Manager is the analytics and automation platform of vRealize Operations. At a high level, it encapsulates the analytics that can draw from a number of data sources. Partners like EMC, for example, are already building extensions to provide visibility into VNX and other storage arrays. vRealize Operations Manager also has native monitoring capabilities to feed VMware vSphere, operating system, and application data into analytics. The analytics then drive proactive smart alerts, dashboards, recommendations, and remediation workflows. Integrated management disciplines work like modules that add more functionality depending on the edition you are using. And the product user interface provides visibility, using role-based access to customizable dashboards. It is important to note that the vRealize Operations platform provides heterogeneous management capabilities, meaning that it supports virtual and physical infrastructure as well as virtual machines running on other hypervisors and public clouds, such as Amazon. With an analytics-based approach, IT operations can optimize utilization, ensure performance and availability across the software-defined data center, or SDDC, and extend intelligent operations to heterogeneous data centers and hybrid clouds. Let us take a closer look at these 3 use cases. In June 2015, VMware commissioned a study to look at how the adoption of VMware's Cloud Management Platform, or CMP solution, has affected our customers. Here are some examples of the gains our customers are making with vRealize Operations Manager in the area of operational efficiencies. Intelligent Operations Management delivers benefits beyond simply enabling applications to meet performance and availability expectations. Because IT teams proactively manage performance and availability, they spend significantly less time troubleshooting incidents with reduced operating expense associated with these tasks. Here are some examples of the gains our customers are making with vRealize Operations Manager in the areas of performance and availability. Here is what our customers are saying about the ability to monitor heterogeneous hybrid cloud environments. Intelligent operations is the entry point for organizations on their journey to the hybrid cloud, and the foundation for a fully automated software-defined data center. The journey starts with managed virtualization, which is all about managing a VMware environment. At some point, organizations want to evolve beyond that, to managing other domains, such as the network domain or the storage domain. They may want to expand to other devices or applications. That is when they need to expand to VMware vRealize Suite. In an intelligent operations environment, 3 administrators typically use vRealize operations: the Cloud Administrator, the Virtual Infrastructure Administrator, and the Infrastructure and Operations Administrator. This table shows the main responsibility of each administrator and the use cases that most affect their work. Adopting analytics-based operations is no small undertaking, but the advantages are tremendous. Here are some tips from our customers who have successfully adopted intelligent operations. First, rather than trying to monitor everything in the environment at once, start by identifying key metrics to measure. Limit the scope to vSphere while you work out your processes. Then gradually broaden the scope to storage, network, and applications. Build a library of best practices and repeatable workflows. Incent your team to focus on issue prevention. Share your success with other teams. The architecture of VMware vRealize Operations Manager supports environments ranging from small to enterprise-wide organizations. In this module, we will discuss the process to deploy vRealize Operations Manager. Then we will give you a quick tour of the user interface and discuss how access to the interface is controlled. Here are the things you should be able to do after completing this module. A vRealize Operations Manager instance includes several components that work together to collect and transport data. An adapter for each external source collects and processes data from the source. During installation, the VMware vCenter Server adapter is installed to collect data for a VMware vSphere infrastructure. Data for additional sources are collected by installing a solution or management pack for the source. For example, you can collect data from the physical networking infrastructure by installing the management pack for network devices. Sources can include other hypervisors, physical infrastructures such as networking and storage, and external clouds such as VMware vCloud Air and Amazon Web Services or AWS, as well as those based on OpenStack. The adapter converts the data into a standard schema that the other vRealize Operations Manager components can understand. The adapter then passes data to the collector component, which prepares the data for final processing. The collector component listens for data from the adapters and forwards the data onto the controller component. The product user interface connects to the controller component to retrieve information, store information, or initiate an action. The user connects to the product user interface with a web browser by using HTTPS on port 443. In parallel to the product user interface, the controller component sends metric data to the analytics component for processing. While the analytics component is responsible for data analytics, this component also includes the alerts engine responsible for alert management. The analytics component performs several tasks. It checks incoming metrics in real time and updates their live values, which are displayed as color-coded badges in vRealize Operations Manager. It decides if a badge value requires updating and generates alerts that appear in vRealize Operations Manager. It also calculates sophisticated dynamic thresholds that learn normal behavior. The analytics component communicates with the persistence component, which writes raw metric data to the file system database. By default, up to 6 months' worth of metric data is stored in the file system database. This raw data is used to provide live status displays in the product user interface. A virtual appliance or physical computer that runs the complete stack of vRealize Operations Manager software is referred to as a node. Application disciplines such as capacity and performance work across this stack. You can deploy vRealize as a single node or create multiple nodes to form a vRealize Operations Manager cluster. Multi-node clusters scale the deployment to support increased objects, metrics, and concurrent users. Multi-node clusters can also provide high availability against host and node failures. VMware vFabric Gemfire manages communication between nodes in the cluster. vFabric Gemfire is a distributed data system that is designed to accommodate large data sets across commodity hardware nodes. Multi-node clustering allows you to scale out a deployment by adding additional nodes to a cluster. Each node takes on a particular role. The master node is the initial, required node. The master node manages all other nodes. You add data nodes to expand the core functionality of collecting and processing incoming data. You can also add remote collector nodes. This type of node collects data from remote sites and sends them to data or master nodes in the cluster. A remote collector node contains the administration interface and collector component only. A maximum of 16 data nodes and 50 remote collector nodes are allowed in a vRealize Operations Manager cluster. This example environment has multiple VMware vCenter Server instances in a single data center. Based on what you know about multi-node cluster architecture, how would you deploy vRealize Operations Manager? Click Answer to see if you are right. In this scenario, you deploy at least one node and scale out as needed. You configure a vCenter adapter for each vCenter Server instance, and you monitor all vCenter Server instances from a single product user interface. This example shows the deployment of multiple vCenter Server instances in one data center and a vCenter Server instance in each of the remote data center locations. How would you deploy vRealize Operations Manager in this example? Click Answer to see if you are right. There are two options for this scenario. For option 1, shown here, you deploy a vRealize Operations Manager cluster in the East Coast data center. You configure a vCenter adapter for each vCenter Server instance in the data center. You monitor all vCenter Server instances from a single product user interface. In addition, you deploy a remote collector node in each of the remote data center locations. Each remote collector node has a vCenter adapter installed that monitors the vCenter Server instance at that location. Users at the remote locations log in to the product user interface at the East Coast data center. Click the button to see the other option. You could also deploy a separate vRealize Operations Manager cluster in each of the remote locations. However, unlike option 1, there would be no roll-up or single pane of glass operations. This example has multiple vCenter Server instances in two main data centers. How would you deploy vRealize Operations Manager in this example? Click Answer to see if you are right. In this scenario, you deploy separate vRealize Operations Manager clusters in each data center. You configure a vCenter adapter for each vCenter Server instance in each of the data centers. You monitor the vCenter Server instances in a data center from a single product user interface. Users log in locally to the cluster. You can ensure high availability for a vRealize Operations Manager cluster by converting a vRealize Operations Manager data node to a replica of the master node. The cluster can recover from a data node failure because redundant services and data are maintained on the other nodes in the cluster. You can configure high availability during initial installation or after vRealize Operations Manager is up and running. After high availability is configured, if a node is down and new data arrives for that node, the backup copies of data take over and persistence is updated. When the node comes back online, it is put into a recovery mode and data is then synchronized to the node. When the node is back in sync with the rest of the system, it becomes enabled. Should the master node fail, the system designated as the master replica takes over the master role. When the original master node recovers, the data is synchronized with the replica server. By default, VMware offers extra small, small, medium, and large configurations during installation. You can size the environment according to the existing infrastructure to be monitored. After the vRealize Operations Manager instance outgrows the existing size, you must expand the cluster to add nodes of the same size. vRealize Operations Manager has built-in self-monitoring capabilities to give pre-warnings, such as when a system is getting low on free disk space or memory, and when the free capacity of the cluster reaches a particular threshold limit. You do not need to enable anything to begin self-monitoring. This function is enabled automatically. Self-monitoring is particularly useful for sizing. You could allocate as many objects as possible, but create an alert for when the capacity falls below a threshold. Then add data nodes as required. After you determine the appropriate cluster design and verify prerequisites, the fastest way to install vRealize Operations Manager is to create the first node by deploying the vRealize Operations Manager virtual appliance. You can also use a standalone installation to install a node on a Linux or Windows system, but the operating system must be pre-configured. Next, you run the Setup Wizard to set up the master node. Then, if you want to scale out the deployment or enable high availability, set up additional nodes. Finally, log into the Product User Interface and perform initial configuration steps such as configuring adapters, creating users and groups, and configuring policies. The vRealize Operations Manager Setup Wizard offers 3 options to make installation quick and easy. Express installation is the fastest option. Use it to set up the first node in a vRealize Operations Manager cluster. This option uses default values for all the configuration options. Use New Installation to set up the first node in a vRealize Operations Manager cluster when you want to configure advanced configuration options. Use Expand an existing installation to add nodes to the cluster after the first node has already been configured. vRealize Operations Manager includes 2 user interfaces. vRealize Operations Manager administrators use the administration interface to install and maintain vRealize Operations Manager. All vRealize Operations Manager users use the Product User Interface to monitor the environment for health, risk, and efficiency issues, add custom content such as views, dashboards, and reports, and administer the vRealize Operations Manager instance. When an authorized user logs into the Product User Interface, the home page displays by default. You can navigate the Product User Interface by using various panes, icons, and buttons. The navigation pane helps you get to the correct page in the Product User Interface: Home, Alerts, Environment, Content, or Administration. You can also get to these pages by clicking a quick link icon. The center pane displays the data for the item that you select in the navigation pane. The back button takes you to the last page that you displayed. The home page is displayed when you log in. This page provides access to all available dashboards. A dashboard provides a quick overview of the performance and condition of the virtual infrastructure. Each dashboard is presented on a tab in the center pane. Panes within the dashboard are called widgets. Widgets can be customized to show the data in your environment the way you want to view it. vRealize Operations Manager provides out-of-the-box dashboards. You can create custom dashboards. Pre-built dashboards are also included in Management Pack solutions. The dashboard list provides a menu of all available dashboards. From the Actions menu, you can rearrange the dashboards on the home page or display different dashboards. The Alerts page shows the issues that have been generated in the environment that need attention. Administrators use the Alerts list to determine the state of the environment and as a starting point for resolving issues. Alerts provide advanced notification of abnormal behavior to help avoid incidents and immediate focus on the cause rather than the symptoms or false alerts. vRealize Operations Manager generates alerts on a number of events. When changes occur on monitored objects, when data analysis indicates deviations from normal metric values, and when a problem occurs with any of the vRealize Operations Manager components. Filtering capabilities help locate specific alerts. For example, you can create a filter that searches for any alert with the word memory in its name. The Environment page provides access to all objects that are recognized by vRealize Operations Manager. An object is the individual managed item for which data is collected. For example, virtual machines, hosts, operating systems, data stores, and LUNs. Objects are organized into groups and applications and inventory trees. Inventory trees group objects by object type. For example, the vSphere storage inventory tree contains every vSphere storage object in the environment. Inventory trees and tree types are provided by management packs when they are installed into vRealize Operations Manager. This example shows the inventory tree types that come with the built-in vSphere solution. You can also create logical containers to customize the operational view of your infrastructure to meet specific business needs. You can create custom groups based on logical relationships so that you can apply appropriate policies to the groups. For example, you can create a custom group that contains the systems belonging to the test dev department and one for systems belonging to the production department. Then you can apply a set of policies for each group to enforce the service level agreements for each of those workloads. Application groups allow you to group objects as they are seen by an application owner. For example, you can create an application group to monitor the health of a given 3-tier app in your environment by bringing in all of the component objects of the application together into one application grouping. Custom data center groups allow you to combine clusters from one or more vCenter server environments for capacity management and planning purposes, and to rebalance workloads to underutilized clusters. For example, if you have a SQL environment that is made up of 2 clusters, but each of the clusters is in different vCenter server environments, you can create a custom data center to track performance and capacity of the cluster as a holistic SQL environment. For example, a common way to group objects is by application. Groups are of 3 types: user-defined groups, groups created as a result of installed solutions, and groups built into the product that are there immediately after vRealize Operations Manager 6.0 installation. Objects are displayed in a tree structure that shows parent-child relationships. This hierarchy can help determine if an issue affects only one object or related objects as well. For example, if you are alerted that a host has a CPU contention issue, you can identify the virtual machines on the host that are causing the issue and check if the host is affecting the performance of the cluster as a whole. When you select an object in the navigation pane, the center pane displays the details of that object across numerous different aspects. For example, the alerts on the object, a deep dive into metrics for troubleshooting, capacity planning tools, and generated reports. Administrators and application owners use the Content page to view and manage all the content available in the vRealize Operations Manager instance. Content includes dashboards, views, reports, alert components, notifications, supermetrics, group types, object relationships, and icons. Most content comes from management packs that are installed into the vRealize Operations Manager instance. You can also build your own content, provided you have the Advanced or Enterprise Edition of vRealize Operations Manager. vRealize Operations Manager administrators use the Administration page to manage and maintain the vRealize Operations Manager instance. Administrative tasks include setting policies, configuring user access controls, auditing, licensing, and installing and configuring solutions. vRealize Operations Manager controls access to the product user interface by authenticating a user and authorizing the user to perform certain actions on certain objects. vRealize Operations Manager relies on an identity source to authenticate users, establish their user identities, and establish their user group membership. Most organizations leverage Active Directory, which supports LDAP for authentication. However, vRealize Operations Manager supports setting up local users and using vCenter Server users. vRealize Operations Manager also supports using a single sign-on or SSO source, so that vCenter Server users can use their vCenter Server credentials to log in to vRealize Operations Manager. When the user logs in, they are redirected to the SSO identity source for authentication. vRealize Operations Manager uses role-based security to manage user authorization. A role is a collection of privileges that grants a user or user group the permission to access objects. When you configure a user account, you assign one or more roles to the user to set their privileges. You also select the objects in the environment that the user can access. You can grant access on object groups, inventory trees, or on single objects, thus allowing for control at a very granular level. 2 good videos are available for learning more about access control. You can find links to both videos from the Resources tab of this course.